Hey, hey. Okay, everybody. You know, I'm always trying to find the right music to set the stage, and today I landed on something called Future Pop. So we're popping to it, right? I hope everyone enjoyed it. Well, everybody, happy freaking Wednesday. I can't believe I say this every single time. It's September 17th. You're kidding me. Where did time go? Everyone's in Q4. I'm right there with you. But everybody, I'm so excited for today's episode. If this is your first time here, welcome to the party, y'all. This is ThumbstopLive. Now, you might be asking yourself, what the heck is ThumbstopLive? So, to bring you up to speed a little bit, ThumbstopLive is our daily show. So, we are streaming every single Monday to Friday from 11 a.m. Eastern to 1 p.m. Eastern. And we're bringing so many different voices in our community to the stage to hear about what they have going on, not only professionally, but also on the personal side, so we can see the mindsets. Now, we're streaming across a whole bunch of different platforms. You might be catching us on LinkedIn, our LinkedIn family. What up? YouTube side of things, YouTube Live. Welcome to the party. I know we got a bunch of people over there. Instagram Live. I've seen our follower count jump by like 500 people since we started this. So new folks, hey. And of course, Twitter and X. That's where you can tap in with us at ThumbstopLive, at ThumbstopLive, at ThumbstopLive. All right, y'all. So without further ado, I'm super pumped for this one. We have Lisa joining us today. I've had the pleasure of knowing Lisa for a little bit over a year now. First connected back in New York when we were doing some type of shoot. It was an interesting environment to first meet. But Lisa has always been such great energy and offers amazing perspective. So I'm excited for her to bring all the knowledge and wisdom that she's gathered in her career and bring it to the stage with us, okay? So without further ado, I would love to welcome the one, the only Lisa to the stage. Round of applause, please. If my tech works.
That was awesome. Hey, Evan, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's going so well, Lisa. It's going so well. My tech is bugging out a little bit. Can you hear me okay? Nope. Sorry, everybody. Bear with me. We're live. It's the tech things that come up.
Take two.
Take two. Could you hear me okay in the background? You okay? Everything good?
I can hear you. I love the music. You nailed it. Very energizing.
Perfect. And you can't hear the music now, can you?
No,
Like it's not
no.
bleeding into the
We're
over?
all good.
All right.
We're all good.
I'm making sure
Smooth.
my tech is all right.
Yes.
Perfect. It's so good to see you. How are
Great
you?
to see you. I'm great. Tuning in live from Threshold, New York. We've got a little logo plate here, microphone that we never use. We're not as natural as Evan, but we have aspirations.
I love it, Lisa. And how is this time of year treating you? It's fall, but I also know it's busy season in your world. So how are things?
Yeah, it's kind of been busy season all of 2025, which is kind of crazy. It didn't slow down too much over the summer. But it's good. A lot of energy, as September in New York is really good vibe. So people are coming through. People are visiting. Founders are visiting customers. So lots of great in-person energy. We'll be doing an event in a couple of weeks on our rooftop, kind of closing out the rooftop season with a bunch of founders. So it's exciting. Hopefully, you guys
Oh,
come
that's
through again
so
soon.
fun.
I know you're here like pretty regularly.
Yeah, would love to. We got to set something up. Lisa, there's so much that I want to get into with you, but before we start getting too deep, I wonder if we can start off nice and easy. Give our audience the quick tell us about yourself, professional side, personal side, whatever you're open to sharing,
Yeah.
and then we can take it from there if that
Sure.
works.
I can. This can go as long as you want. I'm Lisa. I'm been in New York for over 12 years now, my whole professional career, but kind of born and raised in the Philly suburbs. Go Birds! I've been in the New York ecosystem, yeah, like I said, over a decade. I'm with a partner at Threshold Ventures, so we're proud investors of Motion, invested in your Series B, and have been really, really happy with the team, the product, and everything. So really excited for the future, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that on the pod. But yeah, what can I say? So I live in Tribeca with my wife and my cat. Living that domestic life. Love meeting founders. Love kind of the current age we're in. As far as hobbies, I'm like work is a hobby, but I do tennis and New York restaurants. And tennis is very hard to do in New York, and restaurants are very easy to do. So it kind of balances out my health, if you will.
Oh my gosh. That's so funny. I want to get into like work being a hobby later. That's such a good way to frame it. Didn't
It's
know
not
that you're from
sad.
the suburbs of
I feel
Philly.
like it's kind of
I don't
sad.
I think so. So we can get deep immediately because I think one of the pieces I talk to a lot of folks who join these calls is because like I don't only like to talk about the professional side. It's like how people are wired,
Hmm.
the way that they're wired. It becomes interesting about that. So the one place that I'm actually curious to get your perspective on is this idea around passion. So one of the pieces of advice that I would have gotten in my millennial life is like follow your passion, find your passion, like do something you love, something along those lines.
Hmm.
And what I'm curious about is in your world, is that advice that you say resonates with you,
Yeah.
or do you have any other opinions based on your experience that you'd be open to share?
No, it very much resonates with you. I mean, look, everyone's wired really different. I always say one really great thing about my world, venture capital, is people can be on this side of the table and be very different, right? And kind of, I think the best VCs are actually very authentic to themselves and kind of lean into their strengths. Work with founders they want to work with, dig into spaces they want to dig into because it's very unstructured, right? And kind of by nature contrarian. So you should be following your own passion and conviction. But yeah, I mean, I've always loved kind of like the business world. Did business in my undergrad, and so the journey here through consulting and then startups. I worked at Peloton Handy before joining a venture capital firm in New York. That kind of journey led me into something that like a job that I love, but also feels obviously it's not glamorous, but it feels really fun, both like intellectually and just interpersonally. Like I get to meet new people every day, which is just very innate to who I am. I just love meeting new people, but I also get to build relationships with them, right? And kind of the more people you meet, the more helpful you can be. Not to have a VC cliche, but really, just like your own little LinkedIn network where you can connect people, but also you get to kind of put your weight and your capital behind amazing early stage teams that build unbelievably from where we first see them. Both as people and founders, but also business culture teams with great people like yourself. So I very much view it as both like my job and my hobby. And other people in different walks of life, like as you have so many talents and strengths that motion is awesome because you get to own and explore it and launch great initiatives like this. But you see other people kind of work as secondary, and then in the great city of New York, you get to be a business owner, you get to have your side hustles, second and third jobs, and that's really inspiring too. So I love to see that. And then when I'm out on the West Coast a lot, as you know, and that is like, I think over there work is everyone's hobby, and I think it's awesome. It's like that's really buzzing too, right? That's like everyone feels that energy, so it's more normalized, if you will.
For sure, for sure. Honestly, I love the way that you've defined it though. Like there's an emotion that comes up related to the things that you enjoy doing. Because I think like whenever I get into the topic of conversation around passion, I always use the example of like my upbringing. So I played basketball pretty competitively up until my first year
Nice.
of college. And then if you asked me, I would have been like, yeah, I'm passionate about basketball. Like I want to work in basketball. I'm going to work in this. Like this is what's going to happen. But then when I hung up the sneakers and said like, can't really do this
Mm.
anymore, not tall enough, not physically gifted enough, it's going to be
Aw.
tough. There was the exercise that was needed. That was to say, okay, like what about basketball did I enjoy?
Mm.
And then the things that kept popping up for me were things like teamwork, competitive environments,
Totally.
learning and growing really, really quickly, and then everything from there. And then what I started realizing was is like as long as I can fulfill these things in this season of life for myself, I feel like I'm good. So it's just like I love the framing of work being a hobby because I feel similar. I really enjoy it. Like it brings my energy up because I'm doing those three things
I love
every
that.
single day. And that's how I hear you speak about it, which is so
It's
fantastic.
not
So
surprising at
fantastic.
all to me that you played team sports and were so passionate about it. Because yeah, I can. Obviously, I'm not your teammate, but we see each other enough, and I hear about your work enough
Yeah.
that that doesn't surprise me enough. So you have, obviously you're a team player and you have that spirit and competitiveness. But you're also like a culture carrier, which is really important. I hope you still play like club or like pickup or whatever though, right?
I tried to. I tried
It's
to.
tough though.
I
I know so
freaking
many
I
people who
saw
hurt themselves at our
it's
age. Yeah, you got to be careful in basketball. I don't like
I
knee
played with my
injuries.
little cousins who are like 12 years younger than I am, and it just got me too competitive, and I ended up getting a concussion. And I'm like, man, I can't be getting a concussion from a men's league. Like, what is this? I can't do this. So I got to just get back to like pick up basketball, a light jog, and take some shots, and then going from there.
Love it. Love it.
Lisa, for our audience, we've gotten deep pretty quickly here, but I do want to take a step back and get us out of it a little bit. So I think for our audience, it's primarily a lot of people in direct consumer,
Mhm.
performance marketing, creative strategy. I'm wondering if you can paint the picture a little bit on like what VC is, like what your day-to-day looks like, essentially. You've given some hint, but explicit
Yeah.
definition is helpful.
Yeah. Day to day is so like the probably the week zoom out is the better like pie chart, if you will. Because like I said, the job is very dynamic. So I'll just speak from our stage, but as you get into different focus areas, different stages, different geos, the day in the life may look very different. So we are an early stage, boutique kind of venture capital firm. Our funds around $350 million. We will lead, typically Series A's and B's, late seed as well. With check sizes of 5 to 15 million on average. So, it's a pretty concentrated portfolio. And, as you know, we're primarily investing in software. So that's kind of like the world we live in. It is a big world, but as you go later stage or even earlier stage, the activity set looks very different. So let's see, like my typical day is 80% meetings with founders. So that's split between depending on the season, right? Whether it's board meeting season or like September is a big like new deal season, right? It's like the quarter ends end of September, so we have a lot of board meetings in October. We'll have our motion board meeting in October. But September is like a big hunting season, just because people like decide to double down, or they're coming back from, this was traditionally on the VC side, less on the founder side, and again, this is blending a lot more. So anyway, I spend most of my day meeting new founders, hearing their pitches. It could be a combination of founders who are like actively raising, imminently raising. So they're actually meeting me with purpose, have more of a narrative, more materials to share. We're actually like, I'm either gonna pass or kind of dig in actively, and I probably only dig into 10% or less of first meetings. Right, you could usually tell if it's gonna be if it's very very subjective. Of course, nothing against the founder at any point, but at least for me, I try not to waste people's time. And then the other kind of like founder meeting, other than portfolio and catch ups and things like that, are like kind of like active relationship building. So some founders are more kind of amenable to taking meetings, right, and trying to prioritize when they do go to raise, because it's such a busy, often transactional process. They actually want to say like, hey, like at least I actually liked you. Maybe instead of meeting 100 people, we'll meet 10 to 15. And instead of starting from scratch when I'm ready to raise, you got to know the story. Hopefully you've introduced me. I think we did this, like we've introduced you to prospective customers, so we've learned outside in without like asking you, what is it? Like really basic
Hmm.
questions. So that's kind of the other mix. I do some, like, I have a lot of investors in my network, and so if I ever have downtime, we will try to do more relationship based catch ups to understand. Usually this
Sure.
is usually like upstream of us, so seed investors, pre-seed investors. It's more collaborative that way, because I'll often meet people who aren't ready to raise that 5 million plus round yet, but I want them to get a good partner and good advice. So it helps me to regularly meet with those VC friends as well, to understand like, hey, what are you looking for? What are your theses right now? Like any focus areas, are you deploying, that kind of thing, to help me make better connections. And of course, we hope they'll return the favor after the invest and reconnect and put in a good word for threshold, right, which usually happens. So yeah, that's like a lot of it. In my stage of career, I've been in venture like, yes, I guess 7, almost 8 years now. So I do less of the like larger scale, right? Like I think when you're first starting, you go to like happy hours and parties and dinners, and it's just less. I have just people that I lean on, and then I'd rather have them introduce me one on one to people they like, because I know those are kind of like vetted connections. So I do less of that. I'm old, so it's like tiring to go do that versus like actually catch up on emails after work. So yeah, that's my
Yeah.
typical day. And then the zoom out is like, yeah, we have like about just like any industry, we have our kind of like value chain, which is like sourcing, finding out for new opportunities to invest in. And we're pretty low volume, so like yeah, for me it's like 2 to 3 a year, but still, right? That takes a lot of meetings to get to conviction and to like actually right. Like these days, the industry's competitive, so we also don't win every deal that I put a term sheet on. So that's sourcing. Then there's the diligence piece, which, actually like historically was a big chunk of time, just like calling customers, going through data. Honestly, like AI has accelerated a lot because like a lot of the stuff we did was like actually really manual, right? It's like you send a file and like we're writing Excel formulas to understand cohort retention. Like that's basically out of the box now, reading through customer interviews, like, 20, 30 customer interviews. Now you can, summarize them. Even like going through my notes from a meeting and saying like and just chatting with it, right? And saying, what did Evan say last year? Where was he at? Versus like digging through like, we can get through even like Series A diligence very quick. Like if I'm sprinting and I have
Huge.
I do have like teammates with me, like we can get through in a week. So that is like actually really accelerated, which has given me more time to spend with founders, right? Like if I'm active, I'd rather like take you out to dinner and sit down for another time than like look at a set of notes right on paper. So that's the diligence piece. Then there's the winning, which I described, which is kind of like point in time, but it's we're kind of always doing this. Like if I have a great first meeting and they're a year from raising, I'm kind of like always selling like in between, just to even for the chance to be in that should things go well. But that's like drop everything when you have conviction, drop everything, take as much time as the founder will want, and also like negotiate the terms and make sure everyone's happy. So that's like is part of the value chain, but like less common. And then portfolio, right? Like post investment, ongoing stuff, board work, helping with hires, strategizing, whatever the founder needs. We seek to be the first call. So that's that just tends to be I try to make that on the founder schedule, right? So my founders want to talk all the time, and that's great. We're organized to be concentrated, so I don't have like 50 companies. Some people have like 50 companies, right? Other firms are high volume, then you can't really offer that. But for us, like most of us have fewer than 10, and aim to stay that way. So whatever cadence they want to engage on or ad hoc, I make myself available. So anyway, I'm rambling. I could talk about venture forever. So you tell me what's interesting
Love
for your
it.
audience.
No, I love it. I love it. That the helpful, that's the context that they needed to set the stage. The piece that I'm curious about in your own experience here is like Threshold itself is Series A, B, like you had mentioned. Everyone has concentrated portfolios. So in your world, how have you built your thesis around the type of companies and
Mm,
the type of founders that you want to work with?
that's a great question. I try to be very like founder and team centric because in early stage, that's the biggest driver. I would say, of course, you have to be working on an interesting opportunity. Of course, if we're going to put a price on a company, we need to understand, what it might be worth or how it might be valued in this stage, the next stage, and an exit. Of course, I'm not saying we're not disciplined, but absolutely, like the founder from Series A onward, the number one driver is the founder and the team that they've surrounded themselves with. So I try to be despite everything I'll tell you right after this, I try to be opportunistic around people I know are good, people that come highly recommended from founders that I actually am digging into a process now just because a founder I really respect was like, drop everything, right? You need to meet with this person. So like, I take this very seriously because that person is a high quality founder. Um, that being said, when I spend my active time, which is like, hey, if I'm asking for intros, if I'm asking my team to reach, actually intentionally outbound to companies, like, so if you get a cold email from me, that's usually because I don't send a lot. So that's usually because I'm digging into that space. And I tend to be drawn to call it like vertical specific. in venture we call it vertical specific, but like really industry focused, sometimes niche, sometimes real world. Motion is a good example. It's not really vertical, but as you said, you started with D2C marketers who have this community, but I'm really drawn to companies that can build a brand and a product around, an underserved customer base and market, especially in this age of AI, right? Like there's gonna be a million companies, there's a million credit cards, there's a million sales tools that serve venture-backed companies. I mean, those are great companies, of course. Like that's great, but I don't feel like I have the right to win, and I don't feel that I have like a sharp thesis on, especially now, what it takes to break through the noise. Unless you're like, hey, Brett Taylor, Sierra, like fine, right? Like that's a team-driven thesis, and anyone can get behind that, but that's also consensus, right? We're not a huge platform that can
Mm.
just come in and say, I'm going to give you $100 million to build the market killer, which many firms have done in many areas. We have to be more thesis driven, a little bit more thematic, but also a little bit more contrarian to say like, hey, this is where everyone sees the market going, but we're going to come in and we actually see a lot of upside here, which is we've done time and time again. So yeah, I don't know if that helps answer, but I tend to be drawn to those kind of like industry specific or things that start
I love
niche.
that.
Yeah.
It sounds a lot more fun, in all honesty, to
Yeah,
like do it
it's
that way.
it's a, it's depends on how your brain works. I think the investors who don't like it,
Yeah.
they find that very limiting, or like if you're
Mm.
like a more technical, because I was a product manager, but I wasn't an engineer. Some people are more invested in like dev tools and infra, and that's like obviously widely applicable, and then they just focus on the technology versus a lot of the aspects we talk about in board meetings. It's just your distribution, how do you prioritize products, what are the segments to go after, which I find more strategic. And I also think it's more rewarding because you can be the market leader, which is crazy to say.
Yeah.
Like you guys are the market, right? It's like you can be a market leading company, and then you just, the battle is to expand that market and maintain your leadership, which it's always like a fun
100%.
journey.
Yeah, there's so many parallels between like as I talk more to yourself, talk more to Taylor, it's like I learn more about the
I love
parallels between
Taylor,
just like what the sales life is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What the sales life is, and then like how your day-to-day start to look. And then even the idea of in early stage, like backing the team. Because something I subscribe to quite a bit is I forget who told me this, that's pretty common knowledge, but like in order of priority, when it comes to startup success, you're looking at number one, the market or the problem you're solving, then it's the product, then it's the team. And I think most common wisdom is like if your product sucks and your team sucks, it's okay if you're solving the right problem. But even for myself, like the way that I've always thought about
I
it
don't
is like
agree with
how to
that.
connect myself with the right team. Oh, you don't? Okay, well, we should talk about it. We should talk about it. But I've always also disagreed with it because I kind of felt like if you attach and find the right group of people to work with, you can find the problem and then you can find ways to solve it.
Totally.
But curious to get your take on it. Curious to get your take on it.
Yeah, no, this is like the age old bat. And also, I think those quotes were from a little while, and it probably was more true. And we don't know. Like, we can't like look back on today and like make a determination because you probably could 10 years ago and like do the categorization. The reason I don't agree, so there's a couple things. One is like great teams find great markets. So like if you're an amazing founder with who understands levers the business, blah blah blah, everything we look for, which I'm going to talk more about, you're not going to stay in a shitty market, or you have a contrarian team. Like maybe other people think that's not a good market, but you have conviction and you're going to let it play out. And if it doesn't play out, you're going to go find one of the superpowers that if I could put into words is like finding product market fit, but like also really understanding customers, their current needs, but also even if they say they don't want, that if they're not able to say what they want, that you can kind of predict what they'll need today, a year from now, 5 years from now. I think AI has been a big shift in this because a lot of ideas are consensus, right? Like the idea that LLMs are going to add value to every part of our economy. Like if we just find a corner of this, if this, US market and like say, oh, is it going to be able to impact it? Chances are yes, right? Like even physical things, right, are starting to get impacted. So I think the ideas are consensus. It's easier to get to like early product market fit because you can wrap anything around an LLM and deliver it, whether with services or a combination of services software. But you'll find people like I know many people who started, consumer AI apps that don't ever need a raise. They're making, millions of dollars. because people want it. It's like there's an arbitrage on the market right now, right? There's like a lot of problems, and it's not like OpenAI can solve all of them. So that's like my read. And the reason the team matters more than ever is because the technology is consensus. A lot of the like deployment models are consensus, but actually being strategic and predicting one where AI is going to go. So like one way we've done this is back really technical founders, right, who have their own point of view on like, okay, well, what are the models going to do? What are they not going to do? And what do we need to build? And where's the defensibility? But maybe more importantly for verticals like the customer, right? It's like actually building deep for the customer and understanding that that's difficult to do when you're competing with noise, apps, underpriced AI infra, all of the above. So I think that we and I have shifted our focus all the way back to like backing great teams because like most people have the same general idea of like, hey, AI is disrupting marketing. Hey, AI is going to disrupt sales, right? Like, yeah, it will. but what is the platform that you're going to build given that Salesforce is deploying AI, given that there are 50 SDR tools out there, given that you can use ChatGPT out of the box, right? Sales reps use Chat. I'm just picking on sales just because that was like one of the first use cases or law or whatever it is, right? But actually goes back to a highly strategic founder, placing bets, building moats right around the business, whether it's distribution, product, etc. And that's rare to find because the market for talent is much harder, right? It's easier to start a company now, whether you go venture back or not, right? So a lot of those talented people will do something like that. So it's actually harder to find those types of founders, if that
I
makes
love
sense.
that. It's so no, it definitely makes sense. It definitely makes sense. And going full circle, especially just like the time we're in, is also so interesting. I love how much energy you have when you speak about this stuff. And one of the things that I'm curious about is like when you reflect back on your career leading up to where you're at, did you have a map where you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this, then I'm gonna do this, then it's gonna land me here, and like this is what it will look like? Or have you kind of like vibed your way through it and it started to make sense as it's gone along?
Question. I'm really type A, so I had a plan kind of coming out of college, but I don't know if intentionally or inadvertently leading up to this, I tried like you, I followed people and I followed um kind of like their advice for what and they because they've kind of been I'm an open book, so I'm pretty easy to read, and I'm not as good at like self-reflecting. But I've given
Mm,
myself the space to kind of explore, which is still advice I give to younger people. It's just like when you're early in your career, let yourself explore and prioritize learnings, right? Prioritize learning that will only help you because careers are, more than ever, they're like this, like a spiral staircase versus straight, right? Especially in the age we're going to, I think having a cross-functional mindset is going to be more valuable. But specifically for me, like I actually, so I was in consulting, which was like the thing, actually followed people. I had like mentors in school, I was choosing, I mean, it's not that interesting, but banking consultants are more into, I was like, oh, banking or consulting. And then I was like, oh, like these, people who are like me, I'm doing my research about what they like. So I did that. But actually, the rest of it, I kind of let the like product market fit take over. So when I was at Bain, I had, uh, okay, this is probably recorded, so I won't say the names, but like I had clients who started investing in startups, yada yada. Long story short, that was my entree into like start. I wasn't like a tech geek. I like didn't even think about joining Google or anything. I was like, whatever. But it was really fascinating kind of coming in that way. And then Bain has this awesome, like externship opportunity where you can leave for, I left for 7 months and you're like fully on the company's payroll. So I went to one of those companies that I worked on as a target investment, which was Peloton. And I did kind of follow people too, because there was the guy I worked for, it was like he's a CEO now of another company, but he was in the C-suite of Peloton, but he was also ex-Bain. So I knew that he would know how to work with me and leverage me and mentor me, and he was an amazing mentor. And he did just that, kind of introduced me all, and I got to like basically chief of staff for every C-suite. 'Cause I was 24, turning in 25, and that was incredible. And I got to go around the entire company. And then somehow out of all that, I was like, oh, I need to like software is the future, tech is the future, but I am all business. And somehow I was like, I looked at the PM's job and I was like, I need to learn how to do that because that's, back then I was like, oh, this is like ancient history, just a decade ago. I was like, oh, that's the liaison between business and engineering, which it kind of was, right? It actually was because you had to write require, you had to do all this stuff. So anyway, I was like, okay, I need to do this. And then, it just so happens that was probably the one department that they're like, I can't hire like a zero years of experience person. Like I don't have, they just, they were a small company, they didn't have the resources industry. They were hiring experienced professionals, which, many of them do. I was experienced at finance and I could have done any of those business functions, but so I had to look outside the company. And this is like my first like networking thing where I got like tons of rejections because like what management consulting to product now is a well-trodden path. Back then was like, the
Yeah.
fuck are you talking? Oh, sorry. The hell are you talking about?
You're
This
good.
is
You're good. No,
lottery.
let it fly. Let it fly. No, 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 no. You're
Oh my
good. You're
God. So
good.
I got a lot of rejections. And then I networked my way in with this woman who's now a founder, Rebecca Green. She was the head of product, chief product officer at Handy, which was a home services marketplace startup, was acquired by Angie's List in 2018, but, very successful company. And she was like, oh yeah, like I was a management consultant. I'll teach you. It's super easy, right? Like it's a very good transition, good for your skill set. So she took me under her wing. I taught me how to write SQL, taught me how to write a spec, like all the things that you can probably do with AI now. I kind of like learned the ropes, did that job, and after the business sold, um, she sat me down. She's like, "You're a good PM, but like, they always had me doing more like business, more like strategic, high level stuff, like launching a new product or like doing partnerships." And she said, "You're probably better." Going earlier to startup and being like a general business hire athlete, chief of staff, or maybe you want to try venture actually. So I ended up just like doing these meetings with both like founders, VCs, and the more meetings I took with VC friends and like understand, I was like, I think this is just, let me just explore it. So anyway, I let my curiosity and like being open and also following people. I got hired by another amazing mentor, Beth Ferrer at First Mark, and I really was like, I won't work with you. She's been an incredible mentor for the 5 years I was there, and now she runs Serena Williams' venture fund. So we get to collaborate that way. But it always pays, right, to follow people. Like one, you believe in their conviction. It probably has more context on the business than you. If you think they're great, why would a great person go to a losing company? They just don't do that, right? Eventually you find out, one finds out the other and it's not a fit, right? So it's a pretty good bet in the absence of other information. Of course, as you get more senior, you should have your own judgment and you should follow that. And sometimes that'll diverge. But when you're young, that's a really good bet.
100%. This is such an interesting story because it's like relationships have really been at the center of your world.
Yes.
Like now you talked about, yeah, day to day meeting founders, but even back to the beginning, it sounds like it was everything. Like that's so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah. Love it.
So the part that I am interested in here is just like you mentioned how many mentors you had in this process. So the first thing that I'm thinking about is like there's often I was having a conversation with someone else on the live stream like a couple of weeks back. We were talking about like how important it is to find a mentor. And I asked a really basic question that was kind of like, oh damn, like where do we go with this? And it's just like, what is a mentor? And it's just like, how do you define that for yourself?
Um, Great question. I think there are probably better books out there than the way I'll define, but mentorship has been a really big part of my career, both uh, you know, people who mentored me, and I've always been kind of like naturally drawn to it myself. Obviously. You define a mentor. Well, yeah, I'm not gonna like break any, dictionary definitions here, but I think one element is organically kind of forged, right? So oftentimes it does come out of, I'm just talking about a lot of reporting relationships, right? But not every reporting relationship, will be a mentorship, right? Like of the let's say 6 to 10 direct reports, like you may only find one or two people that you want to mentor beyond, right, the scope of that. So I think it like naturally occurring kind of organic relationship, where more than likely than not you have some commonality and background with this person, right? Like I mentioned with Rebecca, was like, oh, you're consulting, we had other things in common, but like, that's one thing. It's like I can be kind of like uniquely helpful to you, right? Or you can uniquely learn, because nobody has the capacity to mentor like if I accepted every cold email about venture, I would be out of a job, right? I'd be like talking on the phone with college kids. Of course I can't do that. But if someone writes me, I'll give you an example without naming that these people are all on venture now. Um, I've had like, the course of my career, probably less than 10 really good cold email. Like someone wrote by hand, mailed me, emailed, whatever, like just so thoughtful that I was like, absolutely, I'll pick up the phone. And every single one of those people is like successful VC right now. Like it's crazy. And like you have to treat people like I mean, it's crazy. Or like maybe, I interviewed hundreds of associates and less than five stood out. And like every single one of them is at a venture or was at a venture firm, right? But had the opportunity to do that. Like obviously I was working, like you can tell. It's not that I'm like such an amazing like scion of talent. I mean, obviously I have some some judge of talent. I'm investing in founders, but it's also like they signal all that stuff. So I think the advice, I guess, if you're looking for a mentor is like, if you identify someone that you think can uniquely mentor you, you should put in the effort, right? One, to like, tell them this is why. And two, because like when you invest in great people, it pays back. Like I'm not a big shot, but like I can absolutely give back, right, to all those people who help me, because I'm now in a position where I have different access. It's not better, right? Like I'm not a CEO. Like they're still much more successful and storied in their careers, but like we could, like, now we're at a place where we can mutually help each other. But like I will always be seeking to do that, right? Because I can never make up for what those people did for me, right? So there's Brad Feld just came out with another book. I'm blanking on the name. I have the cover. It's on my nightstand, but it's all about mentorship because he started Techstars. So that's like, I don't read a lot, but I can come on and recommend that because he actually came in person to an event I was at and like gave a talk, and it's just very impactful. And he has a much better, sharper definition of it, but that was a big part. It was like, the title's called Give First. Sorry, Give First. It was like give
Nice.
first, right? Don't expect a transaction, but I think one thing he said was like, don't quote me, but he said, you will get something back, right? Like if that's the right relationship, but you're not doing it because of it, right? You're doing it because you want to do it. Give first, and you will get something. You do expect something in return, but you don't do it because of that, if that makes sense. So anyway,
That's so
yeah,
helpful.
but it's a
I
great,
think it's
great
just like
plug for
the
the book.
reality. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Get the plug in because I think it's so helpful because like I think one of the mental models that the audience has with them from previous conversations was like there's three layers of mentorship. There's like the person that you're mentoring. There's someone at the similar level, so it's like you're having conversation about what you're going through. And there's someone like you aspire to be. And I think it's like kind of hard to plug in. Where do you fall in that? And I feel like the information that you gave of just like someone who can uniquely mentor you is super empowering. Like something about that definition is quite
Hmm.
valuable. So being able to say like my definition of what uniquely mentoring me is different than what yours would be, different than what someone else's would be. So it's like getting some clarity on that
Yeah.
seems like the right first step. So I think that's super helpful.
But yeah, I guess I
Lisa, you've
didn't
been
take
so
it.
generous with your
I
time.
guess I didn't take it far beyond that. But that's probably the first thing that comes to mind. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, you need a starting place. You need a starting place, and I think that's where people can get stuck. It's like
Yeah.
understanding where you're trying to get to, but if you don't have the starting place, it's like you need the cheat code at that point. But I was saying that you've been so generous with your time. I do have a couple final
Oh yeah,
questions that I'm
sure,
hoping to throw
of
your way.
course.
So the first one that I have is like talked about work being a hobby. One of the things I always pick up on is like you're very busy in that sense then, like with everything going on. So one of the analogies I use is when we look at our lives, there's a version of like I view them as light bulbs. So it's like you have your career, you have your partner, you have your family, friends, mental health, physical health, and whatever it might be across the
Hmm.
board. In my current perspective, which honestly might shift over time, but the current perspective I have is that you can't light everything up at once, all at the
Mm,
same time.
yeah,
It's like impossible at that
that's
point.
probably true.
So I'm curious about how you think about just like divvying up your energy and
Ooh, this is a really
understanding where
good
to
question.
place it.
You are a really good interviewer. You be a talk show host one day. Holy crap. I think that's absolutely true. I mean, a lot of people older than us have said it, right? Like, I can't be the best wife, mother, CEO at the same time, right? I'm probably like on any given day, but there is like a balancing of like hey, I think the thing I use now, and it's a little bit unique because we're not as seasonal anymore, adventure, but we are. There are ebbs and flows. Some of it, of course, you can always work more, but there's always like, what's the return on your effort at certain stages, right? Or certain times, right? It's like, okay, for whatever reason, maybe I just did an investment. I'm probably not going to do one this week. Of course, I have meetings and other things, but like, do I need to be doing 12 hours of meetings today? Probably not. So I think one piece of wisdom, like, is everyone talks about burnout, and like it's really important, and especially in the current culture of like 996 coming to the US, and people being in the office all the time. Like, this goes through waves. Like, it is absolutely important to give it your all, especially if you're starting a company that you want to be a $1 billion company. Yeah, you got to work hard. There is a marginal, like, there is a more of an impact to your effort now because of AI, because people can accelerate, and they can accelerate far beyond you. So I do like subscribe to that. I want to back people who are ambitious and work hard. But I think, first of all, the most successful people work really smart, right? So they're just faster. They get to insights faster. They're more efficient at communicating. They don't spend so much time in meetings, and they really value their time. Rez is excellent at this, by the way. He manages his time. He works super, super hard, but like, I know, because he can always prioritize that thing, right? He always has time that week to prioritize that thing, which sometimes when I see founders drowning, it's like they prioritize things equally, right? And then, so of course they can never get, but it's like, okay, but like, just because someone asked you for it, even me, doesn't mean you have to like stack rank it, and you have to create space for more important things, right? So anyway, so one thing I've done is try to lean into, like, if I do have a lighter week, day, whatever, to catch up on the other things in my life, right? Go work out, help around the house, go on a date, whatever it is, like, that's really important. Like, one thing is, it's interesting. I'm not like advocating for people to have kids, but like, every parent says like, oh, it's like the best prioritization. And it's like, I don't waste my time anymore, because if I can get this done faster, I can spend more time with my kid, or like, it's just like it forces you to do that. So yeah, I think that's my advice, is like, you can't be sprinting 100% of the time all the time. So kind of have a sense of like when your effort is most productive, and what for you guys, it's like what set of activities, right? And like iterate constantly. Like, if I'm not getting on, and like, I'll give you an example. In the old world, like, oh, we would like write blogs or whatever. Like, oh, like like I could write a blog on the future of marketing. And I have it in my head. Like, I have a million blogs in my head, but I'm like also not a natural writer. Let's say this is obviously now you can use ChatGPT to help you. It's kind of good, right? But I'm not like a natural long form writer, and it would take me like all weekend. I would publish this stuff, and it's great. I get like, it gets a lot of likes, and like maybe I get some inbound. But I'm like, there's two things. One, I'm like, it drains me. I'm not an act like, I'd much rather come on, go on a panel or whatever, help host a dinner. That's energizing to me, not draining. And two, who's like, I never got a deal out of it. Like, I couldn't tell you what the ROI was for that. Like, I'd probably rather like take three founders out for lunch on the weekend than spend my weekend doing that. So other people, they like, I have a friend, he has a weekly, and it takes him like 30 minutes. This is pre-LM. It would take him like 40 minutes, and he would write this amazing piece, and and it's so insightful. I'm like, yeah, you
So
should.
impressed.
It's like,
I'm so
what
impressed.
is your superpower? Like you can do that more efficiently than anyone, right? So like, he doesn't need to stay up all night doing that. It like takes him 40 minutes. I could
I'm so
I don't want
impressed.
to embarrass him, but it's like, there's a lot of people, like, the people you see writing the Substack, you're like, oh my God, how do they do? They are naturals. They are naturals at it. And so you have to find those things. Like, if you're not in a role, hobby, side hustle, whatever that feels like it energizes you, and like, probably like, you're probably better off looking for something else. Depends on what you're prioritizing, right? Some people
Yeah.
don't care as much about work. That's also great. My brother's like that. He's super happy, just smart. But like, people are wired different. So anyway, I've taken us into a
Yeah.
rabbit hole.
No, there's something in there. There's something in there about like doubling down on your strengths. Like, if you're
Doubling
able to
down on your
identify them and like
strengths.
knowing.
Yes. Go on
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
self-discovery.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. The other one that naturally pops up, and sorry, I have two more. I promise. I promise that I'll
Oh,
get you
no,
out
no,
of
no.
here. But
I'm good.
the one that Thank you. The one that naturally pops up for me here is like when you're thinking about divvying up the energy that combines both professional and personal. The other professional and personal piece I'm curious about, it's like you mentioned you were type A little bit earlier. How intense are you about goal setting? Like, are you the type to sit down at the beginning of the year? Where do I want to be, like professionally? What does that mean personally? Then breaking
Ooh,
it out into quarters and months, or do you vibe it out a little? What does it look like?
tough questions. I think I've been meaning to get a coach for it, and the number one thing, I'm not very good at goal setting. I'm not. I'm very driven, and I have ideas, and it's like the things that we need to do in a year are pretty concrete, right? We have like, did your investments make money? Are you making new, right? Like, so that's a little bit like innate, but I am not very good at self-reflection. So that is not something I'll take. Some people, I think it's a great idea, especially if you're in an unstructured role, if you're early in your career, if you have these things like all these things in your head that you want to do and you need to break it up into finite. Like I'm pretty good at like task completion, but versus zooming out. But no, I'm not. I'm a vibe it out, follow your, like hustle. Do you feel good about it? But I every December, like super American, I'm like, oh, my Christmas break, I'm gonna like catch up. I do always do the catch up, like go through pipeline, the inbox zero, schedule all the like tactical. And then I'm like, the last thing is like set goal. Like, yeah,
Push it
push
down
it
the road.
down.
Honestly,
It's
though,
important. I think it's really important,
I
especially if it
also think
helps
you
you
have a
get
method to your madness.
maybe.
I also think you have a method to your madness. Like whether you have the definition right now to say it or not, there's probably something of like because I'm similar as well. I'm bringing it up. It's like because execution is so important and like getting through the list. Ultimately, what's happening is like you're redefining goals every day and like you're course correcting quite quickly there, which hopefully ladders up into something larger. Hopefully. But there's some course correction that I imagine is happening nonstop. So it's like methods of the
I do
madness
think
in
yeah,
my head.
I do. I'm pretty self-aware, and I like the data, like taking data and then coming back on like what's working. Yes, but it's more like I don't know. I do poorly with like that waterfall method of like set a goal and then
Yeah,
look back for the
got
year
you.
and like longer term. I think some people do really well with that because it's like they can just
Yeah,
go back and it focuses them. But for me, it feels like
right.
constraining or like overly prescriptive. I don't know. So that's just me.
I've tried, especially on the personal health side, which is
Yeah.
like strength and weight goals
Okay.
and numbers and trying to get there. It hasn't really worked for me, but what I've started distilling it down to is like, how do I feel good every day? So I have this little like sticky note that reminds me to stretch, for example.
Nice.
So it's like, how do I make sure my back doesn't hurt tomorrow? Like making sure I do small stuff like that every day. So it's like I'm like goals every day. How do I make to build the habit essentially?
Love it. Love it. I think for
Ah,
stuff like that,
Lisa,
it's
this has been
great.
fantastic.
So fun.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This has been fantastic. I sincerely appreciate the time. I have one final
Yeah.
question for you that I ask everybody who joins the show about. I want to clip it up at some point and have like a freaking huge clip of this stuff. If you don't have an immediate answer, all good. Toss it to me first. I've got your back.
Okay.
But the question is, do you have a favorite quote? And if so, what is
Oh,
it and why?
I don't. I saw this in the prep and I was like, I'll think I don't. I'm not a quotes person. So I don't know if I'll make it in the clip. I would have to like look up. No, I really don't. I really don't. Just to be authentic.
Okay.
Um,
It's all good.
because I'm not a
Don't
I'm
worry
not a
about it.
read. This is like my one of my weakness. I'm not a reader. I like to like listen. I like podcasts and things like that. But it's like actually visualizing the quotes. What's your favorite?
I'm also not a reader. I'm an auditory learner.
Yeah.
Like I have to hear it for it to stick. So it's like everything is through this. But mine changes with the seasons, and I'm on a Derek Jeter quote
Oh,
right
nice.
now. So it's like embodying everything there. Derek Jeter, his quote is preparation builds poise, poise builds confidence, confidence changes everything.
Mm,
So preparation builds poise, poise builds confidence, confidence changes everything. And like when I'm talking
love
to the
that.
team right now, especially the sales team, it's like all your work is your prep. Make sure. And
Totally.
then you got to get your reps in and then you're unstoppable. And then even with stuff like this on the go to market side, when we're trying to build things that are new, it's like, how are we prepared in the best way possible to at least take a good step forward, try to get the reps in. And then once we're confident, does it actually result in numbers or like what is actually happening here? So I'm trying, that's mine
That's
right
a good
now. And
one.
it'll change
Yeah,
as
that's a good
time
one.
goes on.
Quotes are interesting because they're so
Yeah, for sure.
specific. I feel like I'm left with some concepts. And athletes are really good for that. I loved Roger Federer's commencement address when he talks about how many, it's like of all the points I've won, he only what, like 52% or something, right? So it's like winning the points that matter, but I couldn't tell you what the exact quote was. But it's like that idea, right? Where it's like you need to show up when this is like our thing, right? Like at the moments that matter, you show up. You don't have to be 100% all the time. You don't have to win every single point, but you need to win the points that matter, right? I also need to save up energy for those and be super focused for those. So I do like that, but maybe I'll
That's
look
a
it up
good
after
quote,
this.
though. It could be-
Next time someone asks
that-
me.
That's your iteration of it.
Yeah,
Because
it's a
quotes also evolve. Like
paraphrase.
I have quotes that I say. Yeah. Like I have like mantras or whatever it might be. Like I always tell the sales team, for example, like get better every call. It's not every day. It's not every week. It's not every month. It's like expectation. It's every single call.
Mhm.
You're getting better. And it's just like a me thing that I now say.
I love it.
Nonstop.
I love it. Cool.
So everyone's allowed to have their own things. That's for sure. Lisa, you're the best. Any final words for our audience?
No, I really appreciate. I mean, we didn't get to plug motion, but it's super exciting. I've been watching you from the sidelines, as we like to say, and really impressed. Like this team is just so passionate. We're talking about passion. This team is just so passionate about you, the customers, right? The space, where everything's going, and they're putting their blood, sweat, and tears into building the best product, building the best community, listening. So I couldn't be happier as an investor, and board person. So yeah, really, really excited.
That means so much to us. I love it. I love it. Lisa, you're the best. We got to catch up soon.
Thanks,
We got to
Evan.
catch up
Yeah,
really soon, but I
come
appreciate
holler.
you
Come
sincerely
by
for joining.
Soho, New York soon.
Most definitely. I
Okay.
got to. All right. I'm going to
Thanks.
catch you later.
Bye.
See ya. Everybody. This is so much fun. This is so much fun getting to have these conversations and like understand why people are the way that they are. The conversations that Lisa and I have had have just been more like about work. And it's like, what are we trying to accomplish? How are we going to make it happen? But I think like there's always a natural alignment when someone brings energy and passion to a conversation. It's like you can almost see it in the soul. It's like there's an alignment happening here, right? Like we're on the same page, right? So something was super powerful about that with Lisa quite early on, and having a chance to get a peek behind the curtain and how she's viewing the world is so helpful. When we're talking about from an investment perspective, really betting on the teams, really betting on the founders, that's so important. They always talk about you want to surround yourself with like the numbers 5, but whatever that number might be. But they always talk about how it's like you want to have, or you're most like the 5 closest people to you, and you want those people to be amazing. That is, make sure that you're a good representation of how you are. And I think Lisa just doubled down and like made sure the bet was super clear there. And then on the personal side, like how she's navigated life, like it's not easy to try and figure it out, but how important those relationships are in the process is something that I'm definitely going to walk away with. But everybody, I've kept this one a little bit lighter. I've enjoyed the time with you all today. We will be back tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. We have Rock joining us. So Rock from Flat Circle Agency, he's going to do his thing, all the good things about creative strategy. And we got Jacob Pozel, if I'm saying his name correctly. I got to check with him. But he's blowing up on Twitter. So everybody got to tap in to see what's going on. And if this is your first time here, welcome to the party. My name is Evan. So glad you're here. This has been Thumbstop Live. Check us out at ThumbstopLive, at ThumbstopLive, at ThumbstopLive across all platforms so you can be up to date on who we're bringing as guests and you can catch those clips. All right? All right. Amazing, y'all. I sincerely appreciate the eyes and ears. You mean the world to me. These are so much fun. And I'm going to catch y'all tomorrow.